it looks like an egg. So the ellipse might look something like this. It might look something like this. Or it might look something up and down instead of left to right. An egg standing up. And just like the parabola, based on the shape, we can tell you what the equation is going to be. If it's like this one, the standard form for an ellipse is x squared. Notice my center is right here for both of these. So it's x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. If it's up and down, the equation for that is going to be y squared over a squared plus x squared over b squared equals to 1. What's A? A is the distance from the center to that edge. So if you look at that point, that's the vertex there. If you look at that point, the coordinate for that point will be what? A comma 0. A is always the longer side. This is negative a comma 0. This is b here, 0 comma b. And this is what? 0 comma negative b. So a is the longer side. And in this example, the longer side happens to be on which axis? This one. The x-axis, right? That's why the form for this x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals to 1. The longer side here is along the y-axis. This is 0 comma a. This is 0 comma negative a. This is b comma 0. And this is negative b comma 0. The longer side, A, is the longer side along the y-axis. That's why the equation is y squared over a squared plus x squared over b squared equals to 1. So if it's sideways, that means the longer side along the x-axis, there's your equation. If it's along the y-axis, there's your equation. You saw that when I did that picture on the board, I took the tape and I put 2 pieces of the tape right there and I went with the pen around it. Well, these are the focal points. And the distance from here to there, we're going to call that C. If it's up and down, so this point actually has C comma 0, and this is negative C comma 0, if you're looking for the coordinates for it. C is the distance from the origin to F. If it's up and down, the focal point will be here and down here. So this focal point will be what? 0 comma C, and this will be what? 0 comma negative C. Well, how do we find C? Here actually C squared equals what? A squared minus B squared. Notice it's less than A, so it can't be plus. It's less than A. So it's C squared minus A squared. And the longer side is called the major axis. So if you measure the distance from here to here, if you measure that distance, that's called the major axis. Which, if you look at it, isn't that twice A? That was that someone listening to. The major axis equals twice A. There's A from here to there, there's A from here to there. This distance up and down here, it's called the minor axis. That distance up and down, the shortest side is always called the minor axis. And that's equal to twice b. This point is called the vertex. And there's another one here. And now we know everything about that ellipse. It's always centered at the origin, it's 0, 0. So let's take an example and see if we can graph that. I can take a picture from our book because it will look a little bit cleaner than mine. You know, it's the same thing I put there, but I'm sure it looks cleaner, less mess there with all the terminology on it. The center, the minor axes, the major axes, the focal points. When you have two of them, that's the focus. How do you find C? So let's take an equation, and we're going to see which way the graph looks like. Graph, there we go, there's the question. X squared over what? 25 plus y squared over 9 equals to 1. Okay, can we tell from that equation if it's going to be the long side along the x-axis or the y-axis? Is it possible? How? How do we know if the long side along the x-axis or the y-axis?
It's going to be on the x.
Why the x?
Because it has a bigger number on the bottom.
Notice the bigger number, the 25, is bigger than 9, the 25 and the x. So a here, it's along the x-axis, so a squared equals 25. That means a will have to be plus or minus 5. Because the standard form is what? X squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals to 1. That's the standard form you're trying to match. Which means your b squared equals what? 9, and b equals plus or minus 3. So let me graph that. So a is going to be along the x-axis because that's the bigger number under the x-axis is 5 and negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first vertex. It's 5, comma 0. The other one, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the other vertex, negative 5, comma 0. Along the y-axis, we're going to have what? 3? 1, 2, 3, and down 1, 2, 3. And if I can get my line to go through the 4 points, I did a good job. Here we go. That's my ellipse. The next point is, can I find what C is? Or the focal point? We know C squared equals what? A squared plus B squared. Oh, minus, not a plus, minus. C squared equals what? 25 minus the 9. C squared equals 16. C equals plus or minus 4. So one focal point is going to be here. 4, comma 0. The other one's going to be here, the focal point, negative 4, comma 0. So if you want to graph that, what you need to get a rope that's how long? What's the distance from here to there? No, from the end to the end. 10. I need a rope to be 20 centimeters long, 20 inches long. Tie the ends together. Go from one spot, go 4 units, put a tape on the board. From that point, go 8 to this one, because it's 4 from here to there and 4 to here. Go another 8 unit, put a tape, take a pen, put between that, and you have your picture. That's what I did on the board. So I have to go to 4, 8 between the 2 points. That's how far that distance has to be between the focal points. And you take a rope that's 20 inches long, tuck the ends together, glue them, tie them together. So this, when you stretch it together, will reach 5 on this end, 5 on that end. That's where the 10 back and forth is 20. Major axes for this, if you need to find it, what's the length of it? Isn't that the distance from here to there? Which is 10. Minor axes, that's the distance from here to there, which is what? 6. Remember, that's twice B, and this is twice A. Now we know everything about that ellipse. No mystery. Let me try another one. I'll both twist in them in a few minutes. Let's say I have this one. Which one I'm going to do? X squared over 4 plus y squared over 9 is equal to 1. Which number is bigger, 9 or 4? 9. And that's along the y-axis. That's going to be up and down. So that fits the equation x squared over b squared. A is always the longer side. Doesn't matter if I write this first or that one first. So I know this is going to be along the y-axis. A squared equals 9, which means A equals plus or minus 3. B squared equals 2, which means B equals what? Plus or minus, 4. Plus or minus 2. Again, this is along the y-axis, the longer side. 1, 2, 3. That's your vertex. 0, 3. That's the other vertex. So my graph looks like this. Up and down. My focal point is going to be along the longer side. So I need to figure what C. C squared equals what? A squared minus B squared. C squared equals what? 9 minus 4. C squared equals 5. C equals plus or minus the square root of 5. So one of my focal point, the square root of 5 is just a hair more than 2. One of them is going to be here, which is 0 comma the square root of 5. And the other one is going to be a hair below the 2, right there. That's the other focal point, which is 0 comma negative the square root of 5. What's my major axis? That's twice A. 6. What's my minor axis?
4.
Twice B. 4, yes. That's the major. This is the minor. So if you have to make a box for this, you want to fit that egg inside it, you want the length to be 6, the width to be 4. And that thing will drop just inside it. Here's the problem. A lot of times they don't give it to you in this format. They're not that nice all the time. So let me give you another one. I can fit it here. So I'll end this one here. Let me try another one. Graph 4x squared plus 9y squared oh, that's a big number. Do I want a number that big? 324. How do you know when you look at this that's an ellipse, not a circle? How do we know?
Both are squared.
Well, they're both squared, so is the circle. Circle both squared.
But circle has a single x.
Nope, circle's always x squared plus y squared.
Because 9 isn't divisible by 4, so it's going to be uneven.
Well, you know, if I write this, let me just deviate from it for a second. I'm going to throw this in. If I see 5x squared plus 7x plus 9y squared equals, I don't know, I'm just throwing some numbers. I hope it works out. Some number here. Hopefully it's a positive, some number. I don't want to just make an assumption what that number is. So now you look at these two pieces. Notice they're both what? X squared, y squared. Are these numbers the same? No. If they were the same in the same sign, that would be a circle. But because they're different signs and they are both positive, that's an ellipse. So I know when I look at this, both x is squared, y is squared, that's good. Both of them have the same sign, that's good. But now these numbers are different. If they were the same, it would be a circle. The fact these two are different, that tells me that's an ellipse. But it doesn't look like the format I know. The format I know has a 1 here. How can I make that number 1? I divide this by what? 324. 324. 324. And if I simplify my answer, I'm going to have what? What is 324 divided by 9 here? This will be 1 equals y squared over 36. X squared over what? 81, is it? Now, which number is bigger? The 81.
Yeah.
What's above the 81? The x. This along the x-axis. So a squared equals what? 81. A equals plus or minus 9. B squared equals what? 36. B equals plus or minus 6. Let's graph that. So in the x direction, I need to go 9 and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's my vertex. 9, comma 0. Go 9 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the other vertex. Negative 9, comma 0. In the y direction, I have to go how many? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0, comma 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0, comma negative 6. And try to connect these That's what the graph of that looks like. Let me find the focal points for each one. C squared equals A squared minus B squared. C squared equals 81 minus 36. What do we got? $45. C squared equals 45. C equals the square root of 45, which you can break it 9 and 5, 3 the square root of 5. 45 is 9 times 5, and the square root of 9 is 3. 7 times 7 is 49, so it's less than 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a little bit less than 7. That's one focal point, which is 3 the square root of 5 comma 0, if they ask for the exact answer. And the other one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right here. Negative 3 the square root of 5 comma 0. 6 point, maybe 7, 6.8, who knows, square root of 45. Major axis is what? 18, good. Minor axes, 12. So sometimes they'll actually try to trick us there by giving us something else, not in the standard form. So that's my plan for now, to trick you a little bit there and see if we can figure out what the solution, the graph looks like. I wasted that page there. It's a pretty page. Maybe I can flip it and use the back side of it. There we go. This one I'm going to give you graph the ellipse given what? Here's what we know about it. The vertex at 15 comma 0 and the focus at 9 comma 0. Graph it and give me the equation. Not just graph it. I want to do everything. I don't have enough boxes for. Notice the vertex where? 15 and 0. 15 and 0. That's important, that notation. Where's the 15 and 0? Which axes? X. So I know immediately it's x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. I know that because the vertex on the x-axis. So that tells me stretch in the x direction. I'm going to use 2, like each box is 2, because otherwise it's going to be a huge one. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 5. That's the 15. That means I have another one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, and that's the other one. So I know A here. A equals 15. I need B. Can't graph without B. How do we get B? We know the focal point to be 9. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Here's the focal point, which is 9 comma 0. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's another focal point here, which is what? Negative 9 comma 0. What's the distance from 0 to the focal point is labeled as what? I know, but in terms of A, B, C, what is it? That's C. So C is the distance from the origin to the focal point. That's your 9. If you know that, can you find B now? C squared equals A squared minus B squared. 9 squared equals what? 15 squared minus B squared. 81 equals, is that 225? B squared will be 225 minus 81. 144, which means B will be plus or minus 12. So again, my scale is 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's 0, comma 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 0, comma negative 12. So my graph is going to look like this. Almost a circle because the length and the width. A little bit longer than the width. The height, I mean. So the equation for that's x squared over what? What's 15 squared? 225? Or I can write 15 squared plus y squared over what? 144 equals to 1. That's the equation of that graph. The major axes, should get a stamp for that, is 30. The minor axis is what? 24. Let's try another one like this. Another one similar to that. I just put a different twist in it. Let's try that. The focus 0, 2. The focus is 0, 2. Passes through. Passes through what? Negative 1 and the square root of 3. That looks like a fun one. The focus, is the focus along the x or the y axis? Now we know which direction the ellipse is. Along the y axis. So it's going to have the format y squared over what? A squared plus x squared over b squared equals to 1. We know actually that the focal point, one of them is 0, 2. That's where the focal point, right here. That means there's another one down here, 0, negative 2. The distance from here to there is called C. So I know now C equals 2. That's all I know so far. And we know passes through negative 1 and 3. Let's see. What do we know about c? We know c squared equals what? A squared minus b squared. 4 equals a squared minus b squared. Or I can say a squared equals what? 4 plus b squared. If I know a, I can find b. How am I going to find a or b?
Substitute the a squared with 4.
In this one? I like that idea. Go ahead. I'm for that idea. But how is that going to help me? You on the right track? We have a point sitting here we did not use. It passes through that point. So when x equals minus 1, what's the y value? Plug it in. What is the square root of 3 squared divided by what? B squared plus 4. Plus, what's x equal to? Negative 1 squared. How many unknowns do you see in that equation? 1. I should be able to solve for b. Once I know b, can I find what a is? Go backward. So let's clean that and see what we have. We have 3 over b squared plus 4 plus 1 over b squared is equal to 1. And if I can figure a way to solve this, I'll be happy. How will you solve this one?
Common denominator.
Okay, which is what?
B squared plus 4.
I like that answer again. So here we go. Well, it's not b squared plus 4, it's b squared times b squared plus 4. Because this is one piece, that's another one. So your LCD is actually, the least common denominator is b squared times b squared plus 4. So if I rewrite that, this one will be what? I got to multiply this one by b squared. I got to multiply this by b squared plus 4. Now I can combine them together. I'll have what? 4b squared plus 4 over b squared times b squared plus 4 is equal to what? 1, or 1 over 1 if you want to. Cross multiply. That's a quick way to get rid of this. 4b squared plus 4 times 1 is that equals b squared times b squared plus 4. I'm just going to solve that one. Simple as that. B to the 4th plus 4b squared. And look at that. Wow. Doesn't this cancel this? What do you have? B to the 4th equals 4. What's b equal to? Isn't that the fourth? Oh, b to the fourth? Yep. Isn't that what? The fourth root. Oh, well, let me solve for b squared.
B squared would be.
So, yeah, would be
Square
4.
both
Yep,
sides.
be 2. Yep. If you take the square root of both sides, you have b squared. So I was about to solve for b, but why solve for b? Why not solve for b squared? To get b squared, what do? Oh, you take the square root of both sides. You have b squared equals what?
2.
Oh yeah, square root of 4, which is 2. Can't be negative, it's a square. So if we know that, we come back to this equation. Do we know what a is now? Or a squared? A squared is what? 6. A squared, I have it as what? B squared plus 4. Since b squared is 2, and what do you know? That equation is actually y squared over 6 plus x squared over 2 equals 1. If I want to graph that, a squared is 6. What's a? A little bit over 2. Just a hair over 2. What is the square root of 6? 2.45, roughly. B squared equals 2. What's b? Plus or minus 1.43 or 42? 1.41. I'm ready for the graph. I found the equation for it. I'm ready to graph it. A is 2.45. This is 1, 2, 2.5, somewhere here. Oh, up and down, sorry. A is up. We said this is up and down. 1, 2, right there. And this one is here. And B is what? 1.4, right here and right here. So the graph looks like this. Little tight one. For some reason get fat on the bottom there, but it goes up to what? 2.45, down to 2.45, right 1.4, left 1.4. That was fun. So sometimes they twist the game a little bit there, but you still got to go back to standard form and solve for it.